p.m. There's tons to get to out of Padres spring training today, including a tweet earlier this morning that has been widely distributed from Alden Gonzalez, ESPN, about Jackson Merrill. We've talked about this. It seems like with each passing day, Merrill is getting at least a legitimate look to be on the opening day roster. Jim, this was Alden Gonzalez earlier, that Jackson Merrill seemingly will get a real chance to earn an outfield job this spring. He said he's been working a lot in both center and left and feels pretty comfortable at both. A.J. Preller you'll hear from coming up. Mike Schilt has commented on it. Jackson Merrill spoke with the media today as well. But I mean, it's not a guarantee, but it seems like the Padres are positioning Jackson Merrill to potentially make the opening day roster, depending on how things go this spring.
Where there's smoke, there's fire. It feels like this has happened. I mean, at this point in time, I think I would be pretty surprised if, one, Jackson Merrill's not on the opening day roster, and two, he's not in the outfield in some capacity, somewhere. Left, center, right. I mean,
teaming with Tatis, holding hands.
Right. Well, you heard from Mike Schilt today saying that they wanted to make Tatis a rover in the outfield. They wanted to petition Major League Baseball to have it be okay to only have 8 position fielders.
Smart.
Yeah,
I like that.
8 fielders on the field.
That's a good idea.
And Tatis can cover 2 positions.
Yeah, he could bat twice.
Yeah, it's great.
It's a really good idea.
I love that idea.
Yeah. Of 1,000 plate appearances this year, maybe 1,100, 1,200.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Screw left center.
He's going to hit 116 home runs.
Right, and the
batting twice.
The team's going to give up 1 million runs because the gaps. There's no one in the gaps.
Right.
Yeah, it feels like at this point in time, Jackson Merrill, in some capacity, is going to be this team's left fielder or center fielder or somewhere on this roster opening day, right?
Well, I mean, I think even more so when I hear A.J. Preller and Brent, I think you have this Merrill and Marcy competing for a job this spring. This was A.J. Preller earlier today addressing the media for the first time this spring and talking about some of his younger prospects.
Yeah, no, I think we're open, in terms of their ability to compete to make the club. I think we're gonna find out more, but I think they put themselves in position. Specifically, Jackson's case, last year getting to Double-A, playing well in the Double-A setting. He had a really good off season. And I think with Jacob Marcy, Graham Pauley, those guys, getting to Double-A and then playing in the fall league. Jacob, being the MVP of the fall league. The league's designed to speed up the development of some really talented players. We think they're really talented, and we know their work ethic and how hard they work. And I think they're coming here not just for the experience; they're coming here to kind of see where they stack in with our current group and our current club.
They have mentioned Jacob Marcy more times than I can even count. I mean, they have talked about Jacob Marcy, Graham Pauley, Jackson Merrill a lot.
Yep. You're right.
A lot.
Since December, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Just openly. They're asked about the young players, and then the first names that come out of A.J. Preller's mouth are Jacob Marcy, Graham Pauley, and Jackson Merrill, whatever order you want to say. So you just sit here and you hope that with how much they're being talked about by this organization and A.J. Preller, that they have good spring. They have a good spring. Because if they don't, that's going to mess up a lot of their plans, I feel like. So it's going to be pretty crucial for the guys that he mentioned there to have a good spring, so it gives this team confidence when they bring them up, which I think is going to be pretty quickly.
Let me ask you this: do their spring numbers even matter? Can it be?
Yeah, I think they do.
If they hit 380 this spring, as opposed to 180 this spring, does that impact whether they're on the major league roster? Because it can be completely misleading, can it? You can hit 380 in spring and hit 100 out of the gates. You can hit 100 in spring and hit 380 out of the gates, right? Are you changing your plans for your opening day roster based on 15 Cactus League games?
Well, here's the thing, John. What if in those 15 Cactus League games, Jacob Marcy hits 108?
Right.
Are you going to have much confidence to have him be on the opening day roster? Same thing with Jackson Merrill. Same thing with Graham Pauley. Now, do I think those guys are going to, in however many at-bats or games they have in spring training in the Cactus League, hit 108? I don't. But at the same time, it would be very beneficial for this franchise if they're going to make these moves as quickly as they are to start this season, to have those guys go out there and have good springs, because then it would give them confidence, and it would also give them a reason. If they were asked, I mean, if you're A.J. Preller sitting there and you've already penciled in Jacob Marcy and Jackson Merrill to be on this opening day roster, and they go out in spring and they both underperform and don't look good, how are you going to justify them being on the opening day roster?
So, okay, I agree with that. You're right. But I guess I'd put it this way. Let's say both of them hit 300 this spring, which isn't, hard to envision. It's definitely possible in spring training. That provides you cover to put them on the opening day roster. But what happens if they don't perform when they are up? Are they develop? Is spring training the evaluation tool that 100 games in AA is, or 100 games in AAA is? Or is it just 15 games against, single A, double A, and triple A pitchers? I think it gives you cover to put them on the big league roster, but I don't think it provides an answer if they don't perform once they're in the big leagues, if that makes sense. And, oh, by the way, all this Merrill and Marcy talk, Brent, let's get to this from AJ Preller. The Padres aren't done, per Preller. They're still having active trade conversations. Listen to this.
We have flexibility. I mean, I think part of that is, we've tried to put a lot of time and effort into adding, depth and quality to the team and the roster. So, there's going to be some fun competitions to watch here in spring training. But again, like it's been a later developing market, really. I think we've had honestly trade conversations that are still ongoing that, usually at this point in season, most teams are kind of focused on, they have their roster getting to spring training, going and playing. We've been pretty active, in terms of still obviously some talented free agents that are out there. Obviously, we signed Profar, yesterday or the day before, and there's some active trade conversations. And similar to last year, I think I don't know if we had Michael Wacha at this point in time in the season. So, we're always going to be looking to add and improve. The team that starts right now or starts camp here in the next couple of days, it's not going to be the team, that obviously we finish with, and there'll be a lot of different options as we go through the year. And honestly, I think there'll be some options as we go through spring training.
Is outfield a bigger need right now, or is it more so first base DH bat?
Yeah, I think probably outfield. I think we have from an infield standpoint, with Cronenworth, Kim, Xander, and Manny. And some other depth behind that with Jackson and Graham and some other 6-year frees that are here. I think from the outfield standpoint, obviously a good place to start with Fernando Tatis, and adding Profar to the depth standpoint. But we're going to continue to look to, to add to the outfield mix. We like some of the competition we have in the camp currently, but that's an area that we've had some ongoing conversation, both free agent and trade market as well from the outside.
Do you still have some money to spend?
Yeah, no, it's again, every year we get, budget standpoint. I think that's kind of the flexibility as well. There'll be some flexibility from a player standpoint, and then also from a dollar standpoint. So I think we're open. We do have the ability to add if we'd like to. I've said it before. We're not just going to add to add. It's got to be the right player in the right situations. And going into the year with some dollar flexibility as well will be attractive. So we'll weigh that out as we go to the next couple of weeks.
Ongoing conversations with both free agents and potential trade candidates involved in the outfield. That's why I don't think there's all this Marcy Merrill talk. I could see one on the roster. I don't see a world where both are on the roster.
Okay.
I don't. If he's publicly saying we're having conversations with free agents and about, ongoing trade talks, that doesn't scream to me Marcy and Merrill are two of your starting 3 outfielders next year.
Do you think it would come down to a competition in spring, like whoever,
one of the jobs?
If you have Jacob Marcy just look really good in spring, and Jackson Merrill kind of looks okay, has moments, but just is okay. That do you think it's a competition between those two? Maybe
should be,
and maybe Graham Pauly.
First of all, is Pauly where does Pauly play?
Graham Pauly. None of these guys besides Jacob Marcy is an outfielder. I don't think Graham Pauly even played in the outfield at all last year.
No, he didn't.
Same thing with Jackson Merrill. He's had 5 games in the outfield total. Yep. But the thing there that I do agree with Preller on the most, and you heard it, and we've talked about it, the roster at the start of this year in Korea when they take on the Dodgers will not be the same roster in maybe even as early as a month into the season.
But will any teams?
No. It's about the flexibility going into the season, which he mentioned there, to make moves in season when needed.
Right.
And so, I look at him saying about the trade market and they're active in trade talks. Well, okay, that's fine, but it's getting kind of late here as far as making moves, big time moves. And do you see Preller making a big time move?
No, but I see him making a move. Here's the way I look at it today. I think Profar is going to be given the opportunity to start in left. We'll see if he can hold the job or not. I think Centerfield right now is an open competition, and there's some youngsters, and there's some veterans probably in there. The youngsters are Marcy and Merrill. And then depending on what they do here, whether it's free agency or via trade, maybe that allows you to fully develop both Marcy and Merrill in the minor leagues. The reason I say that is that I think AJ today kind of quelled my worst fear about putting someone up just because you need to put someone up. Here was Preller earlier today about will they force the issue with young players or not?
Yeah, we definitely, we're not going to force anything, at the end of the day, like, we're not going to look up and hurt their development process, for a need basis. We won't do that at all. We'll make sure that if they're not ready, then they go and continue to develop. So I think that'll be a lot of the conversation of spring training is trying to judge that. Sometimes spring training is not the best time to evaluate, but I think we know those guys well. We kind of know where they're at, and we'll weigh that out, in terms of where they're at, ability to help the team. But I think coming into camp, yeah, we're open-minded. That's probably the best way to phrase it, to the possibility of, seeing where they're at, and again, like seeing if they're they're the best option for us, and on top of it, it's good for them and they're ready to play.
When you have the number of guys that are kind of there, like knocking on the door, AA, that are close as you have right now, what is the balance between building a roster that affords them opportunity, but also kind of needs to make them earn it?
Yeah, no, I think you always want to make sure that guys are earning their, that they're earning their spots in the big leagues. You're never going to hand something to somebody, but we've seen it here in the past. Guys like Chris Paddock, guys like obviously Fernando. When he came in here, they took the jobs. And I think that's what we're looking for is players that come in here and just take the job and make it pretty clear that they're the best option for us. If they don't really do that, it probably means they need more time down in the minor leagues. So that'll be a lot of things that Mike and his staff will be looking at consistently. Our front office and scouting group will be talking about it, but we're going to look to see if I think when guys are ready, they kind of show you that by kind of taking the job and performing consistently, and that'll be part of our evaluation process in spring.
Do you believe him?
It's hard. I mean, I understand the question because at some point you have to have a 26-man roster. Now, with all that being said, it's very easy at the end of spring training. This is what people forget. This happens all the time. The Padres do it as well. You could literally complete spring training, and then all of a sudden all these players are on waivers because they don't make teams. Right. And then all of a sudden you pick someone up. It's literally he hasn't played one game in spring training for your team and then is on an opening day roster. It's a little different with Korea this year, but you get my point. Come March 28th, you could have someone that's not in camp on your big league roster. I do believe, kind of to your point earlier, I was like, well, what if someone hits 140 on it in spring training? Is that a reason not to have him on the big league roster? I think he kind of said that. Like, if a guy doesn't earn it, we're not going to give it to him. And that makes sense. If he doesn't earn it, they probably won't give it to him. Even if they don't have great options, they'll probably look elsewhere if someone doesn't earn it.
So then they have to have a plan B, plan C.
Yep.
For all scenarios. If Jackson Merrill or Jacob Marcy don't go out there in spring training and don't play well and don't go and take the job, like Preller mentioned there, which is what Paddock and Tatis both did in spring, then what is your plan B? What is your plan C? Is it just Jerks and Profar? Because if it's just Jerks and Profar, then that's a problem. Is it a trade? Is it waiting for the market to completely tank on a guy like Tommy Pham? Like, what is your plan? Those things don't. We would love to see Jacob Marcy or Jackson Merrill go out there, take that job, and go into the season and have a good rookie year and not completely tank out because they might have been brought up too soon or they're not comfortable with their new position or whatever the case may be. We all want to see these prospects come up and perform because that would just make Preller's job and the Padres' job and life so much easier.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also one of those things where you're really kind of just hoping those things happen and not saying that this guy is 100% ready and we have the full confidence that he's going to do that.
Well, right.
At least yet.
What are the odds? A 20-year-old, he would be a 20-year-old on opening day. What are the odds a 20-year-old switching positions is fully developed and ready to handle bad at the big league level and be an everyday player. Like, they'd
Yeah.
be stacked against you.
Right.
It's not to say that it's impossible. There's examples of young players excelling, obviously, in the big leagues and top prospects performing from day one. But aren't you kind of stacking the deck against the player? He's 20. He's never played left field full time.
It's tough, man.
And you're asking him to be your everyday center fielder?
It is such a tough spot to put him in, but he's going to get the opportunity, which is going to be cool to see. Like he's going to get an opportunity.